Welcome to the Trader a Traitors podcast. I'm Matthew, I'm a writer working in unscripted TV development, and this podcast recaps and analyses every episode of The Traitors, not just here in the UK, but in versions around the world. This season of the podcast is dedicated to The Traitors UK Series 4. We've been going over the main events, digging into the strategy, the tactics, the gameplay, the blow-ups, and even being a little treacherous ourselves along the way. I've been joined by a different co-host every episode, and today is a returning co-host who even joined me on the last bonus episode as a little surprise. Let's find out who it is. MaJiKer, you are back with me once again. You joined as a special, unexpected delight last time, but we planned for you to be here all along. How are you doing?
I'm really good, thank you. Yes, how are you?
I'm very well. I'm very excited to talk about episode 11. A lot going on here. And MaJiKer, just in case people are joining for the first time, they've got short-term memory, they can't recall episode 2. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am a musician, I'm a songwriter and producer. Increasingly, I've been focusing on coaching. I qualified as a life coach, and so I work with people in the coaching space. And yeah, I'm putting together stuff around listening, all of which is going to appear on my Substack. Getting in the plug early. I'm going to direct people towards my Substack, despite having not even done a post yet. But guys, when that post comes, it's going to be worth the wait. So
Yeah,
sign up to the Substack for free. And then when that post comes, you'll be like, wow, that post was worth the wait.
yeah. They'll be like, thank God I got in early. It's hot off the press.
Yeah.
It's going to be worth it. I know it. I know it.
hmm
Now, MaJiKer, we are going to be talking about episode 11. We have got lots of listener comments coming up actually in this episode, and then much more in our bonus episode right after, where it's just all about listener thoughts and questions. Before any of that, we are going to initiate our podcast game, The Trader Traitor. And you regular listeners, you might begin to notice or hear something slightly different in the podcast. Let's go ahead. We are putting Traitors viewers' claims that they could easily spot the Traitors' lies and deceptions to the test by playing our own game of secrecy and betrayal here on the pod. The challenge for MaJiKer and I for the remainder of this episode is to tell a lie to one another and to you. The lie has to be a fabrication, a made-up fact, huge, tiny, about ourselves, about the traitors, about whatever we feel like, really. For example, I could lie and say that I have been to the Firish Monument when actually I haven't, sadly. However, I couldn't lie and say that I think the Firish Monument looks ugly and horrible. That would be a fake opinion. I think it looks beautiful. So
I
we're looking
came,
for
I came,
fake.
I came all the way here. Excuse me, and you're
I
pretending it's
know.
ugly
I didn't know you'd be joining us from the monument directly. Clearly, you're on some sort
from.
of crane,
Yeah,
or
yeah. I'm attached to a drone actually, which is yeah, real coincidence because I think some of the drone shots there were drone shots in here, but I'm currently on a drone in the Scottish Highlands,
okay,
hanging by this Irish monument. Clearly for YouTube viewers, there you go.
yeah, a very quiet drone, very incredibly
Yeah,
stationary. It's startling. No
it's
winds, no
amazing it's
gusts.
amazing what they can do these days with technology.
It is now. Of course, that MaJiKer could be lying about that. Who's to say? But if he did, that would count. That would be a fake fact, a false piece of information, not just a fake thought or feeling. Listeners, you can put your skills to the test. See if anything, apart from what MaJiKer just told us, lights up your radar. I've not officially started the game, so that doesn't count.
Yeah.
And then MaJiKer and I will play Traitor Hunter in the listener Q&A episode right after this, where we will guess and reveal our lies. MaJiKer, you haven't told a lie at all already, but are you now ready to lie at some point?
Yeah, I'll have to see what I'm a very truthful person, but I'm gonna try my best. He says, hanging from a drone in the Scottish Highlands.
I have believed every word of it. Our game begins now. And yes, listeners, you maybe heard a couple of things there that sounded slightly different. We've got some beautiful new audio on the pod, so even MaJiKer's introductory fanfare was a little different, a little jazzed up. It's not a coincidence. MaJiKer, maybe you're the best to tell us, why do we have new music all of a sudden?
I have spruced up your jingles. That's the technical term, which sounds so wrong out of context. Love this pod, was a fan before I became a regular, and love your intro, love your outro, and some of the interstitial jingles. I was like, I wonder if we can go to the next level. So
Yes.
took a bit of time. I remixed the main theme that you're about to hear, the let's get into the episode theme. Well, didn't remix it, I totally re-recorded it. It is me wailing like a banshee in the second half of it. And then I cut up various bits and made little stings. I remixed the fanfare and made a little thing for the end of the episode as well. It sounds a bit like the old one, but again, it's got me wailing like a mysterious banshee. So yeah, we have new interstitial jingly music.
We do, and I'm very grateful. It sounds so good. I was very, very excited when you offered to send it to me, and then when I heard it, so it sounds fantastic, and it's sort of unofficially to celebrate, I guess, that the podcast has passed over 500,000 streams and or downloads at this point, I should say, and I including YouTube streams, it's at like 750,000, which is wild, really unbelievable. So
Wow.
you had sort of suggested, hey, maybe a little celebration of that. We have some spruced up jingles. So I
Mhm.
think I've spruced up your jingle is the new title of this episode of the podcast. I've decided right now.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of anything better. Before we hear that sort of introductory music, we've got a couple of points to pick up on from episode 10, a couple of catch-up points. I have an email from Sonia, and Sonia, I think, is either in France or Canada, in Quebec, perhaps. And this is kind of connected to something you mentioned on the podcast last time, Matthew. It's I think maybe you were avoiding spoilers for a particular season. I'm just going to go ahead and read Sonia's email. This is still not a spoiler. I think this is absolutely okay to mention. It says Bonjour, Mathieu. That should be to both of us. I'm a big fan of your podcast. Thanks for the great insights. You've mentioned notes or journals potentially being used in future Traitor seasons. So you talked about this last time, MaJiKer. But it's actually been done in the Quebec version. Is this what you were thinking about, or is there another season where they use notes and journals?
No, I was talking about Norway.
Ooh.
Okay, so this is, I think, what. Let's hear what she has to say, but
Okay.
I think I know where she's going with it.
Okay. Saudi says not only did they use them, but the journals were actually integrated into the game, and the players would sometimes get special permission to go read the journals of the dead in a special room. It was quite interesting to watch because the players had little time, so the traitors could steer a faithful towards a certain journal, for example, someone who was not gunning for a traitor. So there you go. Can't wait to watch the last episodes. I love the UK version for many reasons, but also because I can watch with my 6-year-old. Merci. What 6-year-olds? Some of it's a bit creepy, but I'm glad that you're getting them. I hope the 6-year-olds listen to the podcast as well. No, sometimes we use bad words. Maybe they shouldn't. You'll have to judge. Yes, MaJiKer, you'll know about this. The what Sonia is referring to.
Yeah, so this is a little bit different. We're talking about ever so slightly different things. The Norway example was when they were walking around making notes, and so they go to a mission, come back to the castle, and then make notes, and then kind of share notes and cross-reference. I think what Sonia is talking about is they had a section called Le Bureau de Karine, where she'd say,
Ooh.
"Welcome to my office," and then it was a bit of a damp squib, to be honest, because again, you're going to the faithful to say, "Oh, what's it? Les éternels trahis," they call them, which is the eternal betrayed, the ones who have been murdered or banished or whatever. And then it said, "Oh, quick, whose journal do we want to look at?" And it's like, well, they were just guessing. They were just guessing, you know? So they made this whole big deal out of, you competed to see who got to go into you get the great privilege of going into Karin's office and looking at these journals. But I mean, that was a bit daft. And then it was kind of, like, I think it's so and so. Here's my evidence. It's like, well, all right, but. That's the whole game is you're trying to give your evidence. I suppose it's just if you genuinely thought someone was a traitor and you didn't feel safe or you didn't want to ruin your game by saying it, you could
Hmm.
put it in your journal. But yeah, they didn't bring that back. Well, let's see. But I don't, I think that was a bit of a, yeah, it was a nice idea, but it didn't really lead anywhere.
I'm assuming the traitors then also they've got journals, but their incentive is to lie, like write fake notes and or like exaggerate.
Yeah,
They could exaggerate things falsely,
yes. Although
claim
now
in
I
their
say
journal
it,
that someone said something that they didn't or whatever.
but hang on a minute, don't forget, am I getting myself confused here? It's only the ones who have got okay, so they've got banished, but they will have stated that they're a faithful, or they got murdered, so they are a faithful. The
Okay,
ones who
okay.
get banished and said, I'm a
And
traitor,
then
there's no point looking at their journal. So
okay,
I think
okay.
they are not in the office, I think.
Right. It's not people, yeah, it's not people still in the game, basically.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, that makes more sense. Um, cool. I would love to visit the Kareen's bureau. We got little clips of it in Canada English speaking version, but they didn't use
Hmm.
it for the same reason, and it was
Yeah.
also didn't look anything like an office. Just a room, just a random room.
Yeah. The one thing I did like was the kind of IKEA furniture that she had. It wasn't IKEA. Where like they had a bit like they have the portraits, but they had all the journals kind of on the wall. It was very cool. And there were kind of like
Mm,
masks and all of that, and you kind of had to go. So it looked amazing. It's just, yeah, I don't think it really led anywhere. But again, it can
okay.
help you to just give you a bit of confirmation if you're like, I now think this person might be a traitor. Let me check what this person who I trusted thought before they got expelled from the game. But see, the whole thing is like, I don't know. I think it just confuses people more than anything else.
Yeah. God help anyone trying to read my notes because my handwriting is appalling. I'm on the last page of my trader journal. Actually, I need to get a new one. I'll tell you later how you can buy one, folks. We've also got a comment from just a really funny comment, made me laugh from Adele on YouTube. I think again, maybe it's the Adele. I've still not. Adele says she's not the Adele, but I think she's maybe
Double
playing me
bluff.
here.
It's a
Double
double
bluff.
bluff. Yeah.
I think Adele just left this morning saying that when Rachel told Faraz she would have killed him the first night if she'd been a traitor, I thought it was a little joke to herself or the viewer about how the traitors were constrained in their choices that first night because of the secret traitor. Maybe I'm reading into it too much. And I thought, oh, that would be really funny if that's exactly what Rachel had meant. Little did Faraz know, so I hadn't thought of that, but nice
Mm.
observation. Would have been a good touch.
Hmm.
We are ready then, I think, MaJiKer. We're going to dive into episode 11. Here we go. To recap, the traitors gave the double vote dagger to James, hoping it would lead to trouble for both Matthew and James himself, which it absolutely did. Jack won what is likely the final shield in the whole game and their mission, and at the round table, James managed to rally enough of the others to banish Matthew, and I hadn't even really added it up last time, but I went back and checked. He didn't even need the double vote to do that. So, kind of, yet again, it shows that the dagger rarely actually makes. I mean, it psychologically makes a difference. So, I guess it
Yeah.
is worth using. The way that it really messed with their minds was worth it to watch it play out. The actual double
Yeah.
vote probably didn't. It doesn't usually make much of a difference.
Look, there's a one-word TripAdvisor review for the dagger, the whole concept from MaJiKer 1293 underscore, which is boo dagger, boo. We don't like the dagger. However, there is a little preface to that, which is apart from the fact that it was really interesting that the traitors had to choose who got the dagger, and that added a whole layer
Yeah,
of complexity. Boo to the dagger. Because yet again, it ends up not really making a difference. But I really did like the fact that the traitors had to choose. Basically, anything that gets the traitors or the faithful to have to make decisions and then
yeah,
they get judged for those decisions is interesting.
agreed. Absolutely. Then at the end of the night, Faraz told everyone he strongly suspects Rachel as a traitor, which is a bit of a surprise. And in the turret, Stephen panicked, as he always does, that Rachel may turn on him at some point. Basically, because she tells him at some point, I'm going to have to talk about you. I have to act like a faithful. I think Stephen gets a fright from that, takes that, in my opinion, more seriously than he should have. And they
Mm.
decide they're going to have to murder between Roxy and Faraz. Now, in my notes here, I was taking my notes in real time. I've only watched the episode once this time. I wrote, they're murdering for the final time. I just assumed like
Mm.
that's clearly the final murderer
Yeah.
until Claudia implies otherwise. We'll get to it in this episode.
Yeah,
I feel you probably have the same thoughts as I do, and that a
very
couple of
much.
people have already sent me messages about.
Yes.
We'll get there.
I have refrained from sending you any kind of message or anything because I was like, we're literally talking about it tomorrow. So I've held back. So yeah, we have not conversed on this at all. We're going to
No.
lay it all out for our listeners.
Yes, I was gonna send you a message about something in the episode, and I don't know what it was, but I was watching very late. It was probably about midnight, and I thought, MaJiKer is sensible and is in bed. I am not going to send a message. I shall wait till we are recording tomorrow. We,
FYI for you or for any listeners who want to text me, despite not having my phone number, my phone is always permanently on silent, so you can text me anytime. It's fine.
okay, okay. We start off, we're at just a bit of a refresh. We're still in the turret. They reiterate they've made their decision based on who can help them most in the game and reach the end game. I notice here there's a little clip of Stephen and Miv. He's wearing different clothes. He's actually wearing the clothes from the next morning. So I just for it's not that important, but it was to me because I thought, okay, he's recording this the next day. He's still talking about being worried about Rachel. She said she was going to bring up my name. So I thought, if he's still saying this the next day, it is a genuine concern. If he's still talking about it.
Mm.
And actually, when he walks into breakfast the next day, yes, it's the same shirt that he's wearing. I mean, I know you. I know you should never really fully trust anyone in the game. I just think Stephen at this point, I thought Stephen is about to make a huge mistake. He is, I think, like letting paranoia get the better of him. I don't think Rachel has given him any real reason to doubt that she means what she says. She's in it to the end. I don't know what you felt about the way Stephen seemed to be panicking.
Yeah, there was something very interesting, which is when this came up in the turret. There's obviously it's a very heavily edited show,
Yeah,
and I struggle in some shows, particularly The Apprentice, which has been doing it for about 10 years now, where they just cut in reaction shots that are nothing to do with anything. So, for
right.
example, when they're on the phone, they never say goodbye. So it looks like they're being rude. But of course, what you do is, okay, cool, see you later, see you later, good
Yeah.
luck, see you later, bye. And they cut all of that out. So it looks like there's all this kind of tension in the team. And in that turret, I thought they're making Steven look like he's so much more worried about this. Whereas what they've probably done, and being super cynical here, is the producers in his MIV have just said, so if you were to have some concerns about Rachel, what might they be? You know,
Mm, yeah.
talk to us in the present tense about your concerns about Rachel. So, and I just thought they're hamming this up. And then the way he played this whole episode, I was like, oh no, I think he actually genuinely was worried about it.
Yeah, I flipped back and forth on Stephen throughout this episode. Sometimes I was sort of like, how could you, Stephen, you awful man? And then towards the end, I thought, no, no, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. He is sticking to his word. I can't quite figure out, and maybe I'm jumping way ahead to sort of like my overall thoughts. I can't complain. Stephen is not doing anything wrong. Stephen is playing the game, and if he decides to double cross Rachel, that
Mm.
is allowed. That, and if
Yeah.
it gets him a win, I can't say he is bad for doing that.
Mm.
That's the game. That's what you do. I just
Yeah,
like
this
Rachel.
episode. Yeah, same. And this episode was like I would call it pure traitors. Like this week is yesterday and today's been a little bit not sleepier, but just not twists. If they were twists, they weren't really big twists. And so you're kind of like, right, we're in the end game. This is like pure gameplay here, and it's still after all these seasons so fascinating. You're watching a human being trying to navigate incredibly complex and nuanced dynamics of trust and friendship, and and where do you go with things, strategy. Like, it is so, I now understand why Survivor has 50 seasons, because if that's your format that you like, let's hope that the Traitors has 50 seasons.
Yes, I agree. I was so caught up in this episode. I found it really tense, and
Mm.
I always find it engaging, obviously, but I was really sort of mentally caught up in what was happening and what might have been about to happen. Yes, yes. So we moved to breakfast, and you know, MaJiKer, this was probably going to be the last breakfast where there may have been a recruitment. It's basically now not possible, which is very sad because it means something you and I had been hoping for won't
Mm.
really come to fruition. We have been remembering classic Kate Garraway and Celebrity Traitors. Maybe someone's been recruited.
You said that about 2.5 times too fast. You just slow it down a little bit.
I did. If I was more prepared, I would have my sound bite of Kate saying that my impression will have to suffice for now. However, maybe later in the episode we
Mm.
have a special surprise. I'll tease with that for now. Stephen and Jack arrive first. Jack tells Stephen that they need to have more confidence in themselves as faithfuls, which he keeps saying, and I now can't stop noticing it. And they should stop giving the traitors all the credit for playing the game brilliantly. Hey, we are great faithfuls. And I thought, Jack, I think they have been playing brilliantly, actually. He says he's manifested winning. He's got tunnel vision now. And I thought, yes, Jack, you probably have had tunnel vision this whole game, and not in a good way. Stephen then brings up Faraz and the way that he named Rachel last night. And then he goes on and says, yeah, maybe I've given Rachel a bit of a free pass until now. Maybe I should reconsider. Stephen, already? Can't wait until, when breakfast is done, for goodness sake. And Mev tells us, he sort of suggests he is keeping his promise not to vote for Rachel, but he didn't promise not to talk about her and put her name out there. So he is kind of doing what Rachel said to him last night. She did say, I'm going to have to talk about you. I'm not going to vote for you. I just felt like Stephen was being a little bit more devious about it. I felt
Mm.
like, even at this initial moment, I thought, oh, he's going for Rachel when he doesn't have to right now. No one else brought it up, but hey. Or maybe Jack brought it up. No, he brought it up. I don't know. Jack reiterates Faraz's theory, yes, about Fiona and Rachel's conflict. Maybe that was traitor on traitor. And Stephen says, that's a fair observation. Stephen, stop it. James and Jade arrive. James, of course, still feels terrible about what happened with Matthew last night. He says he gives himself a D minus at best. Faraz, Rachel, and Roxy have not yet arrived. Obviously, we know Rachel's coming back. Some of the other players think surely Faraz is going to be murdered. That was my prediction in the
Mhm.
podcast last time. That was Maria, my co-host's prediction. I think that was most people's prediction, that they
Mhm.
have to get rid of Faraz.
Yeah.
As the final two Land Rovers pull up and we have these drone shots of them arriving outside the castle, suddenly Jack starts talking about Harriet inside and how she left them a huge clue that they've ignored. I'm thinking, where is this coming from, Jack?
Mm.
Like, I mean, Jack, you're well done. You're right. Why are you suddenly talking about this? And Stephen is nodding along. Yes, we
Mm.
have ignored Rachel for too long. I I couldn't believe what was playing out here.
So
Knock
this is a
knock.
dynamic. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is something that has happened, hasn't it, in other versions, when the traitor who's playing it really well and hasn't really had any sus at all, suddenly, out of nowhere, the final moments of the game, really, the final day or two, everyone's like, hang on a minute, why haven't we looked at them? And then there's this like snowball, this kind of landslide from a snowball. It was fascinating to watch. And I'm just going to say it. I know I'm spoiling the result of who comes back in, but I was thinking about it yesterday. I think Rachel made her first massive mistake by not murdering Faraz.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny because I predicted Faraz, but when I was making my notes on episode 10, I originally wrote down, oh, I think maybe they'll go for Roxy and it's going to be a big surprise. And it's too, I just had this feeling that maybe they would do the opposite of what they had been doing and actually keep the person in who's named. And then I thought, nah, just get rid of Faraz. Come on, do this. That's what you got to do to stay in. So Rachel enters, followed by Faraz. Yeah, I just had this horrible feeling. Maybe this was going to happen. Uh, just before the flashback to the turret and why they picked Roxy, there's something I want to mention here. So Joe, who was our co-host back on episode 7, I think. Hi Joe, and Joe's listening, I'm sure. Joe pointed out something to me about Uncloaked. So just a thought, just putting it out there. Uh, Joe noticed Ed Gamble say something which he felt immediately was a bit of a spoiler. So this is in the episode 10, Uncloaked. We didn't know whether it was Roxy or Faraz who were going to be murdered. But Ed Gamble spoke quite confidently as if Faraz was coming back. And it's, if anyone wants to go check, it's at 2 minutes and 44 seconds into episode 10 of Uncloaked. And Ed Gamble's talking about Faraz. He's talking to Jake from last season. He says, "Yeah, tomorrow I guess he's got to try and mobilize people behind his theory." So he's talking like. No, my first reaction was, well, he's just sort of guess. He's just saying if Faraz comes back, but it really stuck out to Joe, and that was Joe watched it before he had seen episode 11, then watched episode 11, and thought Ed Gamble. So to Joe, Ed did maybe give a bit of a spoiler there. He was very confident talking about because I think Ed Gamble didn't talk about Roxy in that same way. The conversation was quite focused on
Mm-hmm.
what Faraz has to do tomorrow. Now, I thought they wouldn't include that in the edit if there was a big spoiler like that. I don't even know if Ed Gamble's seen the next episode and knows. I just thought I'd mention it because it really stuck out to Joe. So hey, listeners, you could make up your own minds. Let me know.
Mm-hmm.
We then flash back. We're in the turret. They pick Roxy to implicate James. They think she's not going to get banished. But I think she had slightly more chance of being banished than Faraz. You know, James would have voted for her.
Yeah.
Stephen and Rachel could have chosen to vote. I mean, it would have looked very, very odd, but Jade had mentioned Roxy at the last round table as a suspect.
Mm.
Yeah, I just wrote here, I think this is a huge mistake.
Yeah.
I, yeah, we've both said it. This is maybe where it starts to go wrong. So,
Well, I think it became fairly clear that Faraz was almost certainly voting Rachel no matter what, or at least that's how it felt.
yeah,
So when the numbers are so small, I understand it's a risk, and then you have to go in and say, "Oh, double bluff, triple bluff, whatever," the next day. But they're trying to frame. They're trying to frame me. There we go. That's best. That's my best. I'm not going to stop, guys. This is my best impersonation of Rachel. She has such a lovely accent, can I just say? Because it's like Northern
yeah.
Irish, but she speaks so softly. It's such. I love the way Rachel speaks. She should do ASMR or just become a radio host like Mina. I don't know.
She should.
But she should have, yeah, they should have just taken out that almost certain vote for Rachel and then just deal with it the next day. Because you can so easily say, as we've done, I think it's been at least 3 times now in this season. Well, it's obvious what they're trying to do. They're clearly trying to frame me. And I don't know if I think that was a miss. I think Roxy was, yeah, Faraz has like no sus on him, does he? I don't think so.
No, no, I really don't think so. And the way that what Roxy then says when we see her receive her letter emphasizes to me exactly why they should have
Mm,
kept her. Well, first of all, I actually thought here, wait a minute, this means we don't get any payoff from her being related to
mm,
Judy. What was the point of that? That changes then at breakfast. Claudia comes in.
yeah.
But Roxy says she's proud of herself. She thinks maybe she was going too hard at the traitors at the round table and finishes by saying she'd love Rachel or Stephen to win because she thinks they've been faithful and honest throughout. And I thought, yep, that's why you should have kept it to the end right there. Missed
Yeah.
opportunity.
I, I'm sorry to say, but however things could have played out, she could have been that one at the Fire of Truth when there's three left, and they say, "No, no, let's vote to end the game, guys. We're all faithful."
Yeah.
And then the double whammy of, I can't do Scottish anyway, so I won't. But poor Roxy. But yeah, wow, a rare miss. There must have been reasons for why they thought this was a good, what ends up being final murder. But I think Rachel might be regretting that now.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So back at breakfast, they're all sad about Roxy. James can't believe she wasn't a traitor. Even that implies he might have voted for her tonight.
Hmm.
And he says he's rubbish at the game. And Rachel takes the chance to say, "Well, are you rubbish? Maybe you're an evil genius." She's obviously that's where she's going. She wants to try and pin things on James. And Stephen says tonight at the round table, we need to say what we have on each individual player. It could be the person closest to you. You might be getting strung along only to be dropped at the end. And again, every word out of Stephen's mouth, I'm just going, "What? Stop it! Stop it right now, Stephen! What are you doing? I'm not happy about this." And Rachel even acknowledges in Miv that she can see what Stephen's doing. She thinks it's very risky of him to be going this hard on not someone that isn't her. Claudia arrives and asks giant model Jade to lift Roxy's portrait down because it's quite high up. I'm going to just throw something in here. It's so ridiculous. This disproves a Facebook theory I saw. I'm really considering just leaving Facebook. I'm really wondering what I'm truly getting out of it. Other than that, I'm a member of some groups, and it's nice to keep up on news of artists that you like and stuff like that. And when tickets are going on sale for concerts and stuff, maybe I could find out about that any other way. But someone on Facebook in one of these traitors groups suggested, "Hey, have you noticed that the person murdered is always on the bottom row of portraits so that Claudia can lift it off?" And I was like, "That's absolutely not true. Like, just stop it." That's what people just say the maddest things. Anyway, this disproves that. Facebook, I am leaving you more and more every day. Uh,
Well, if you think people saying idiotic things is a good reason to leave Facebook, then you will fully understand how when lockdown was announced in March 2020, I about a couple of weeks later, I was like, and where's this deactivate button on Facebook?
yeah,
Because the amount of utter rubbish and the site kind of encourages people to do that because then you get more attention and blah blah blah. We know how it all works. And yes, I have been pretty much fully deactivated for about 5 years. I say deactivated rather than deleted because, like you say, sometimes I need to check what's going on my high street. And so I
yeah,
just log back in for literally 2 minutes, have a look, check the facts, and then deactivate again. Cannot recommend it highly enough.
yeah. I just encourage anyone in one of the traitors groups, and I read them for little updates and funny memes and all that nice light-hearted stuff. Sometimes people post ridiculous things or ask questions that they could very easily find the answer to simply by rewatching an episode. That's all I'm saying. So Claudia, yes, poor Roxy's portrait is down and says, "So close, yet so dead." Which really made me laugh. And says, "Do you feel sad for Roxy?" They're all saying, "Oh, yes, yes." And then Claudia says, "You know who else would be sad for her?" And I thought, oh, Claudia's going to do the reveal. Her mum,
Mm.
Judy. Oh, what? Judy? Oh my goodness. Oh, we can't believe it. Oh, so we do get the pic. I mean, it's a fun moment. It's nice to see their
Mm.
reaction, but was it really worth it? Like, is there a point? I know we've talked about it already in the pod. I'm just saying it again. We don't, what are these secret relationships actually doing?
Look, the secret relationships work really well if both players get quite far in the game. When
Yeah,
that isn't the
exactly.
case, as happened this season, I mean, one of them got, pretty far, but then her partner not so much. How can it come to anything other than, oh, do you remember that person who got voted out about 7 days
Yeah.
ago? Well, I was related to them. Oh, what a surprise. Right, on with the game.
Yeah, what a surprise. Where's the smoked salmon?
Yes.
And the players, yes, they're all shook about this news, and then Claudia gives them their clue for the mission. "I know that playing this game can feel like an uphill struggle, and on that note, I'll see you at the mission." Uphill struggle, uphill, oh my goodness. Jack remembers Judy. There's this really, there's talking to us about Judy and Roxy, and this made me laugh as well. Jack goes, "Oh, yeah, Judy said she worked in adoption and fostering." And then they go, "Oh," and then like Faraz, or maybe it's Jack says, "Oh, yeah, and Roxy said the other night at the dinner that she'd been adopted." And Rachel goes, "How did you not put that together?" And I was like, well, it's not that an obvious connection. Just because she works in adoption, like, like I don't know. I'm like, well,
I
it's not the
mean,
most obvious thing.
no, and it could also be a little bit problematic that a lady of color who says I work in adoption and Roxy says I was adopted, go, oh, did you adopt her? It's like, excuse me, we're jumping to a few conclusions here.
Yeah. So yeah, it just made me laugh. How did you not put that together? So love Rachel. Off we go, some castle reality time. James is now paranoid that he's been set up for banishment, which he kind of has been, but he claims he still has the weapon of honesty. And I thought, this is maybe the wrong game for you, James, but you know what? I've really softened up on James. I was quite critical of him early on. I found him too manic, doing too much. And
Mm,
actually, now I'm like, you know what? I think he's a nice guy and he's quite harmless and just not very good at the
mm.
game, but I don't know. I'm not hating on James.
No, I be honest, he's not my kind of person. Like, I'm sure he's very nice, but in this game, what I really struggle with is people who interrupt and cannot just listen. I mean, my thing is listening. That's what I really help people with. And yeah, I was glad at the round table to cut to a little bit later when they said, look, yesterday, or when you kept on interrupting and not letting anyone get a word in, I thought, good, glad they're calling him out on that because
Yeah.
I know it's difficult for people who are very impulsive, but literally just like, seal your lips together until someone's finished speaking. It was too much. It was too much because then it makes it very unpleasant to watch as well. Like you kind of, I can't personally can't stand it when people are just constantly talking over each other.
Yeah, it's and I think he even does it still tonight at the
Mm,
round table a few times. And I think Jade kind of calls him out on it.
mm,
So we've got Jack, Jade, and Stephen in the kitchen. Stephen talks again about having to look at those close to you. Why am I still here, etc. Obviously, he's faking it, and then claims Rachel would be an amazing traitor. I just can't believe how much he's doing. Like, stop it. And I think this is more than just casually mentioning her name from time to time to look faithful, or when someone else mentions Rachel, you go, "Oh yeah, that's a good point. Maybe I should keep that in mind." Yet he keeps bringing it up.
yeah.
I thought at this point, I thought, I got the impression he was really actually trying to steer people towards her. I thought this is foul play, Stephen. And he keeps going. He copies what Faraz brought up, although embellishes it even further with the knowledge that he has as a traitor. He says, "Yeah, maybe Fiona was trying to do to Rachel what Harriet did with Hugo and make herself look like a great faithful." And he actually brings it up again at the round table. And Jack agrees. Yes, we haven't pursued this line of thought more. Stephen does then go on at least to mention James, so he does bring in someone else. He says he needs to talk to James today. He almost voted for him last night. Jade and Jack are worrying that James is hiding behind this big chaotic personality, and either maybe this is a moment for the klaxon. I should have had it ready. That either he's an amazing traitor or a terrible faithful. Hear that?
Cliche
Jack then
klaxon.
says in his miv that his number one suspect is now Rachel, and then James. Oh, Jack, no, you're not allowed to be right. You're supposed to be the person we don't notice, and you don't make a difference. Stop it. I'm just saying this because I want Rachel to win, which now I think is very unlikely, but I guess well done, Jack. So we're in the billiard room, and Faraz is talking to James. He says he suspects either Jade or Rachel or Stephen. So he's named both of them. James says, "No, I can't believe it's Stephen," but is learning his lesson from how he keeps getting things wrong, so he recognizes that could be the case. And we're like, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes into the episode. I really thought for the first time here, oh God, the traitors are in trouble. For the past 2 or 3 episodes, I've been sort of like, traitor win, they're no one's going to stop them. These faithful haven't got a clue. Suddenly, I'm thinking, I actually, I can see a faithful one. Just the way that they're suddenly onto Rachel. Faraz is talking about Stephen being a big suspect. I, and again, maybe I'm jumping way ahead, but MaJiKer, am I wrong to think we could have a faithful win now? Is it possible? Well, it's always
I mean,
possible, but is it
yeah,
likely?
anything is possible. Um, yeah, it's crazy how fast it turned because it doesn't normally turn that fast. That there's normally more in the way of seeds that are planted. However, I have to say again that it is an editor-led show.
Yeah.
And so two things. First of all, it could have been that Stephen was actually bringing up several names because his whole thing was we
Mm.
need to look at everyone, we need to look at everyone. And what are the producers going to show us? They're going to show us him talking about Rachel because that is new and it's interesting and it's a
Yeah, that's
twist.
true.
And
Hmm.
then also they could have edited out every time that Rachel's name, which I think they did, every time that Rachel's name came up until that point. Because the idea that she was playing this flawless game and no one suspected her, that is the narrative that we've been led to believe. But again, the clues when people go on Uncloaked and say who do you think the traitors are, several of them suggested Rachel. So that there was suspicion on her. It's just that we didn't see it. So they've done a really good job at telling this story, and I am enjoying the way, because that really was a shock. I love it when the twists come from the gameplay, and that's what happened in this episode, I think.
Yeah. That also makes me think of just the general feeling I've seen online is that this is, oh, it's the, I think people say this every season, to be fair. It's the worst group of faithful ever. They're such idiots. How
Mm.
can't they see it's Rachel?
Mm.
And I do think, just hold on, you're relying very much on what the edit is telling you.
Yeah.
And exactly like you've just said, MaJiKer, they may well have been talking about Rachel, they're just not showing it. Or there
Mm.
are so many other things going on that do, for a very good reason, make them veer away from Rachel. And I don't think these are just idiots. They're not just stupid people and they can't see the obvious. If
Mm.
there are like five, six, seven faithful who all don't vote for Rachel, there's a reason for it. They're not just morons. Like I
Yeah.
can't accept that. So
Mm.
I think, yeah, I'm hesitant to just say worst faithful ever. Oh my God, they're so stupid. Like,
Yeah.
probably something else going on here.
Yes, and don't forget that that is not like an organically selected group of faithful. And even after the first murder, we are having faithful remaining in the game that the traitors want to remain in the game.
Mm,
So
yeah,
if people were super sharp, super, on it, there was a lot of sus that they were getting too close, they may well have been murdered. So yes, we have ended up possibly with some of the more clueless faithful, but the idea, it's very difficult to accept. My mom was always saying to me, from the first season, I think she was saying, "Oh, but they are daft, aren't they? They are silly. They can't see it." I said, "Yeah, but mom, but we know it. We know who the traitors are, and we forget that we know."
yeah,
But that's what's so fascinating about this game. You have to try and get in their mentality. And also, of course, we had the secret traitor. And let me tell you, most people did not guess who the secret traitor was. So there you go. You had your shot
yeah.
and you blew it.
Absolutely, including me. I did not go for Fiona, so there we go.
Mhm.
And I am a genius, so if I got it wrong, no, not what I meant. Uh, Faraz in his MIV quite soon reiterates that his top three suspects are Jade, Rachel, Stephen, but he knows that James is high on other people's lists because of everything with Matthew and Roxy, so realizes James is probably going to get votes tonight. Now we see James. I've written James tells Roxy. That can't be true because Roxy's not here. James tells someone, maybe it's Jade, that he's. Maybe it's Jack. I don't know. James tells someone that he's convinced Rachel. I think he's talking to Faraz. I think he's still with Faraz, and he said because Faraz has been talking about Rachel, and he says, "Yeah, no, I'm convinced it's Rachel." And he says she's the smartest player, and he noticed that at the round table last night, she seemed to just sort of sit back quietly while the chaos unfolded. Yes, because now my next line is Faraz continues talking about Rachel, so it must be Faraz. And he says that, yeah, they're talking about Rachel as Rachel appears in the room with her cup of tea, sits down, bit of awkward silence, and she uses Columbo as an example. She's trying to suggest maybe James is like Columbo. He's a quirky character who's underestimated. And Faraz kind of does a Cat Burns and goes, "Who's Columbo?" Did Cat Burns didn't know who Judi Dench was.
Mhm.
Someone in a Traitor series also asked who Columbo was. I am certain of it that this came
Yeah.
up. Um,
Uh, Freddie.
it was Freddie. That's so funny that
Yeah.
it's happened twice. There you go. I mean, do you know what? Faraz is a young guy. I think it's quite understandable that he might not know who Columbo is, so I'm
Yeah.
okay with that.
Mhm.
And anyway, Faraz has kind of proven actually he's quite insightful. He's quite observant. But yes, made me laugh that little moment. And Rachel says in Mev that she's glad Faraz questioned her last night. She knew it had to come up at some point. Maybe she's going to regret saying that. Maybe she doesn't realize how serious it
Mhm.
is. In the library, we have Stephen and Rachel, and Stephen tells her that, yeah, he's going to be asking. There's a couple of times in this episode where Stephen and Rachel are in a room together, but I think are quite aware that anyone could walk in at any moment. So they never
Yeah.
ever let slip. You know, they keep up the pretense that they are just two faithful having a chat. And he says he's going to ask everyone questions at the round table tonight. And Rachel just sort of goes, "I'll look forward to hearing what you have to say." And I thought, does she know something's up? I can't quite. I don't know if she's just being in character. I'm not sure. And yeah, they continue to pretend they're on one another's list, which is lucky because yes, Jack and Jade walk in right after this, and Rachel also claims she's going to bring up everyone's name tonight. Time for the mission. And James tells Stephen that is this in the car? Why am I saying this? This must be in the car. James is talking to Stephen and said he's probably voting for Rachel tonight because she's too relaxed at the round table. I think this is in the cars. And then tells Stephen, yeah, there's no way that you could be a traitor, I'm sure of it. Which is kind of all Stephen needs to hear, I thought. If he's got people saying it's, "Oh, you're fine, we don't doubt you," that's more ammunition if he needs it to turn on Rachel if he feels that he has to. If he thinks, well, I'm safe, no one's looking at me.
Yeah.
Claudia then stops the Land Rovers. They're on a hillside road and points to an enormous hill for them to climb. Along the way will be shrines dedicated to the murdered faithful. They can also. It's a really funny moment here, MaJiKer. I wonder if you noticed it. I've made a note to myself to bring it up. There's some very obvious ADR here. To me, very obvious. When Claudia is giving the instructions for the game, I'm going to put the timestamp in here so listeners can go back and check. It's at 18 minutes, 35 seconds into the episode. Claudia says that, like, blah, 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 murder, the shrines to the murdered faithful, and you can also retrieve gold rocks. Like, it's like a totally different. You can just hear the difference in the tone and the sound quality, like, or not sound
Yeah.
quality, but you hear the difference. You can also retrieve gold rocks. Like, it's very clearly. I don't know
Look,
what she must have said. It was, I don't
I
know,
I've
said
never
something different
understood.
or
Yeah, I've never understood bad ADR because I mean I'm sure these people know their jobs, but as a vocal producer, if you have to edit in a line, you can't just say the word. You have to say the whole thing. So
right.
she needs to copy the phrase, and you can also win da 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 da. And then she says, okay, and you can also win gold rocks. And then what that means is you can edit it at any of those touch points. You can say the word you or can or
Yeah.
also, and then it means that it sounds correct, but not. You can also win gold rock. So
It
it was
really
funny.
struck
I
me.
mean, the
Did you
worst for
notice it?
this is yeah, I did, I did.
Okay.
Um, and the worst for this is Alan Cumming, who does it all the time. And even I mean, they even did extra shots. Did you notice where? Sorry to go on to the American one, but when he turns to the camera suddenly and says, "Oh, and this is going to happen," I'm like. Yeah, you recorded this like about 3 weeks later. Like it's so
Yeah.
obvious that it was just not actually in the same moment.
Yeah. Just it's just funny. I wonder what like. Did she say gold? And then afterwards they went, "Oh, that's confusing. People might think it's the
Yeah.
gold coin." Just let's say gold rocks. Let's make it more.
Yes.
I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
they've got 45 minutes to gather as much sorry, as many gold rocks. I'd be specific. Sorry, I'll say that again. They've got 45 minutes to gather as many gold rocks as possible and reach the top of the hill where they need to fill the shield of Fyrish with their gold. If they do, and everyone is there, £10,000 will be added. You know, in my notes, I've written, I meant to write 10k. I've just written £10 will be added. Imagine second last mission. You'll get £10, a tenner. But there's more. If they fully fill the shield, they'll stop the final murder. Hold
Mm.
on just a minute, Claudia.
Yeah.
Before I before you and I talk about why this isn't something's not right here, I'm actually going to play a voice note from a listener who has sent in a thought and an observation about something that I'll come back to later. This is from Emily, and I thought Emily does a very good job of explaining this for us, so I'll play that now.
Hi, Matthew. I've just finished watching episode 11 and I have a question and a thought. The question is there any way that they would not have succeeded in the mission tonight? Because if they hadn't succeeded and there had been a murder, then it would have taken it from six, a banishment, five, a murder, down to four. And if there are two traitors left, then the traitors have pretty much automatically won unless they turn on each other. So that was my question. And as soon as Claudia said that, I thought there's absolutely no way that they are not succeeding in this mission.
Thank you for that, Emily. Thank you for saying exactly what I was thinking. MaJiKer, I even had a message from co-host David Bloomberg at 1:23 a.m. saying, "Have you watched episode 11 yet?" I was still awake, and I said, "Yeah." And David said, "Not sure why it's a big deal that succeeding in the mission will stop the traitors from murdering," and goes on to explain the same thing. Unless I'm missing something. I don't think David's missing something.
Mm.
Did you have the same thought? That, of course,
Yeah.
they were not going to murder.
100%. And I will read out my conversation with a lovely friend of mine called Chatty GPT. It's French. I said, on the traitors globally, how many players usually remain on the final day? And Chatty says this, in the global reality TV format, okay, I'll cut to the point. There isn't a strict number that must remain on the final day, but there are common patterns based on how the game is structured and how past seasons have played out. Typical number of finalists, it does say 4 to 5 players, which really surprised me because I do not have strong memory of many versions going into the final day with 4 players. That doesn't sound right. That's the most common outcome, especially in the UK and US editions. In UK Series 2 final, 5 players competed in the final episode. But it does, so Chate continues to say that it's either 4 or 5. I do know that there has been a version where on the final day there were 3. This was literally the worst version and the worst final I've ever seen. I am, I'm going to say spoilers, but
Was it
literally, if you're
France?
planning to, it's not, it's Belgium. It was
Oh,
the French Belgium version, which I know I've mentioned this previously on the pod. It was surreal, Matthew. They go in, they do their mission, which is weird because there's only 3 of them. Okay. Then they come to the round table. I'm not making this up, or maybe I am. And then the host, Mr. Charisma himself, says, "Okay, so what were your roles?" He goes, I was a faithful. Oh, what about you? I was a faithful. Oh, I was a traitor. Oh no, okay, that's where the game ends. I was like, what just happened? What just happened? They literally just announced their roles with almost no climax whatsoever, and that was the end of the game. It was ridiculous. So.
yeah.
I do not understand. First of all, I think we all just rolled our eyes and said, "Well, they're so obviously going to get the 10K because they want to boost the pot a little bit. So obviously, and they're so obviously not going to have a murder. Why pretend?" I did not like that. That was the heavy hand of production, a little bit too
Yeah.
strong.
And I don't even understand how the players could have thought that this was a possibility. So Stephen even
Mm,
says, "Oh," in his miv, I'm devastated we can't murder." And I thought, how can you not have thought the murders were done now? Like you can't,
mm,
yeah, like they've watched this. I don't know. Especially Rachel and Stephen must have. been like, yeah,
Yeah.
we didn't think we were going to murder. I
Hang on a
don't know
minute as
why.
well. Oh, haven't they just undermined themselves? Because didn't they say on the show? I mean, so Claudio announces this is the last time the player will reveal their role. But if there's only four, it means they go straight to the fire of truth. There's no
Yeah,
more roundtables. That's it. That was the last roundtable. Yeah, they have undone their own logic here because that means there was always not going to be a murder because there is going to be one more roundtable. Then they're going to go to the fire of truth.
yeah, I found it all very confusing. I don't know what. Yeah, it's. I thought it was enough to say if you win this mission, you get 10k. They could have just told us last time this will be the final
Yeah.
murder. Like when Jack won his shield, they could have just said, and Jack, this is a special shield because it's the last night of murder. Like,
Mm.
so you're definitely in the final or whatever. So yeah, I don't know if I'm trying to think of ways. Did they end up with fewer people than they thought? But no, there was no one quit the game. There were no one had to leave. There
Mm.
were no double elimination. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? Yes, Claudia. She kind of suggests they need to be vigilant because the traitors might try and sabotage this mission. I
Mm.
thought, as if
I
they're going to
know.
do that. The mission starts. Obviously, James is off like a rocket and claims he'll make sure himself there's no murder tonight. And I'm just going to pick out some of the main points rather than go blow by blow. We've got flowery shrines in a big pond, gold rocks. Stephen pretends in his mouth that he considers sabotaging it. I don't believe it. They, by the way, they clearly missed an opportunity to include a creepy gothic cover of Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush.
Mhm.
It was the perfect time to do that. And when I wrote my notes here, I abbreviated Running Up That Hill. Probably other people have noticed this. The letters are RUTH, Ruth. Ruth by Kate Bush. Who's Ruth? Is Kate Bush giving us a code for something? Like,
Well, what if I were to tell you that my cousin is called Ruth because she was named after my mom? My mother is called Ruth.
are you planting potential lies?
Absolutely not. I'm not lying. I'm not lying about the thing I just said that was
Right.
true.
Writing a little note.
Yeah, thank you.
Is it a double,
Um,
triple, quadruple bluff?
but
Oh,
true. It's,
you've.
it's a
Oh, man.
quintuple bluff. Yeah, there you go. Take it or leave it.
Yeah. But running up that hill, should we? Running up the
I mean,
hill.
I don't know how, honestly, I don't know how the rights work because a lot of those cover versions, because I've been asked to do some, I've always actually passed because I don't actually really like cover versions. I like that they exist, but they're not so much fun for me because I'm a
Mm,
songwriter and I'm always like, I'll just listen to the original, it's fine. Um, but yeah, you get a list of songs that you're allowed to do that are cleared. I don't. I think Kate Bush would probably hold her rights a little bit more closely than that. I'm
yes.
not sure.
Yes.
I've
Likely.
never seen any Kate Bush song on the list of ones that you're allowed to just do your cover of.
Yeah. Sad, sad moment. Anyway, and maybe it would have been two Stranger Thingsy. Okay, fine. It just occurred to me. Oh my God, they're literally running up that hill. So, anyway, Rachel also pretends she might sabotage the mission and blame it on being the oldest because at 42, MaJiKer, she is ancient. She's so
Yeah.
old. I mean, she would get away with that one. The
Yeah.
next opportunity for gold is to use the rocks they've already collected to throw them at some hanging urns. If they hit, they'll earn 20 gold or pieces from the creepy druid standing by. Jade actually manages to hit one first, showing up Faraz and Jack. A win for feminism, I think we can agree. And
Hmm.
not the first time this episode for Jade. And, or it won't be the last, I should say. James runs off ahead to scout something. I don't know. I think James just has extra energy, like a cat that he needs to get out and go mad for a while. And the others smash a bunch more urns, earn more gold. Eventually, they arrive at the monument where Claudia awaits. James is obviously first, tips up his bag, Jack and Stephen next. Three bags is not enough to cover the shield. We need more. They run back. They meet Jade and Rachel. I assumed, oh, they're going to grab their backpacks and then run up. But it was all a bit chaotic. But then James takes their bags and runs the opposite direction. I realize, oh, right, he's going back to the urns to smash them and try and earn more. But
Mm,
there's just this moment, I think he takes the wrong bag. Like, and Jade's
mm,
like, no, you need one with rocks in it. Like, it's just so odd. Rachel, of course, uses this moment to say, that was a bit weird. Is he up to something? It turns out Jade later sort of finds that a bit too obvious of Rachel to suggest it so easily. So actually, it doesn't really work. Maybe it's another mistake from Rachel. Jade
mhm.
and Rachel then make it to the monument, with Rachel telling Claudia it's been harder than childbirth, to which Claudia just can't help but laugh. Somehow they've still got 15 minutes left. I thought this was already like the final 90 seconds or something. No, no, 15 minutes.
Mm.
So I thought, oh, right, that's why James. Because I was like, why is James running all the way back? Oh, they still have time. Okay. Cut back to James. He has his heroic moment. He pictures his family skimming stones on the beach, hits the urn. Yay! Off he runs again. He's got more gold rocks. But he's overdone it. He's retching. He's falling over. What the hell is he doing? It's all falling apart. They're running up and down. It's bad. They then eventually they cover the shield and the rocks, but James isn't there. And
But hang on a minute. If you remember, if we're going to follow David's logic, then this is David Tennant. So we got the whole timey-wimey thing going on by this Time Lord throwing up that actually stretches the boundaries of
oh,
time. And all of a
okay,
sudden, when they were running out of time, time expands to fill the time necessary for James to make a
I
full
see.
recovery after a medic in probably comes and checks that he's
Right,
okay and fit to continue. And then time magically stretches so that they
right,
just
okay.
about manages to make it to the top because otherwise there would have been a murder and the whole game would have fallen apart.
It all
Ah, this really
all
annoyed
becomes
me.
clear.
This
Yes,
bit was like, okay, I am not a conspiracy theorist, but I was like, this is ridiculous.
yes. He was expending Time Lord's
Energy.
universe, manipulating energy. On brand, Doctor Who's BBC, sure, it's a crossover. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we already said at the start that I thought, okay, he's clearly going to make it back. Like they're not going to fail. Like, I mean, it's fun to watch James just like collapse on a path, but there's a real jeopardy, right? Come on, folks. So I know there's also a moment of Stephen and Rachel saying, oh, this might be if we fail because of him, it'll be great. And again, I thought, you don't really believe you're going to fail, do you? Suddenly, we cut to James. He's back. He's running up the final segment of the hill. 50 seconds left. Claudia's cheering them on. Up he comes. They make it with 23 seconds to spare. Hurrah! Gold smoke explosions, hugs, celebrations. James is alive. It's all good. Claudia reveals they've been successful. £10,000 added and no murder tonight. I can't believe it. Didn't see it coming. Didn't think they were going to
Mm.
do this. Well done, guys. And she also reveals that tonight's round table is the last time banished players will reveal their identity, which is not so much of a surprise. That tends to be the pattern now. Uh,
She then goes on to say that another two times, and one of my pet peeves is when people keep saying the same thing over and over again. On the third time, I was screaming at my screen, going, "Lord, you literally just said that twice already. I heard you the first time. Thank you for your job as presenter of this program."
yeah, maybe she's doing it for some of the Facebook users who then go online and say, will the players still reveal themselves at the fit? Like,
It's all
no,
gone.
Claudia has to say it three times.
Yeah, it's all gone a little bit second screen, hasn't it? People are just busy. They're saying, "Hang on a minute, what's going on here?" And I will tell you three times in a row. Thank you.
Yes. Jack and his Mev gives us a bunch of bland platitudes about teamwork, we work together, etc. Again, I think in these last couple of episodes, they're just trying to give Jack a bit more screen time, even though he
Mm.
doesn't have anything super revelatory to say, but we need to at least know who he is.
Well,
Uh,
did you know that his job is PT, which actually stands for platitude tosser? As in someone who tosses out platitude, just to be clear, it's not an insult. He tosses platitudes left, right, and center. So that's his full-time job as a
oh,
PT.
I thought he was a personal trainer, but now it makes more
No!
sense. Okay, right.
Yeah,
Okay, yes. How could I have been so foolish? Thank you for clarifying that. In the
you're welcome.
cars, back to the castle, the car that it doesn't have James in it is basically kind of laughing at James. And in the other car, James, Jack, and Faraz talk about sabotage. They reckon surely it would have been too hard for the traitors to have obviously done that this mission. Although James did a pretty good job of making it look like he may have been doing just that. Castle, reality time before round table. Another hilarious scene of Rachel and Stephen in the kitchen alone. And Rachel saying, "Isn't that absolutely brilliant that no one can be murdered tonight?" And Stephen, she's getting something out of the fridge, and Stephen just goes, "It's great, isn't it?" And, I mean, someone does walk by, like, when you see Rachel at the fridge, someone walks by, I don't know who it is, I think it's Jade. So they've got to be wary. Anyone could be around. And Rachel whispers,
Mm.
"Who are you gonna go for?" And I hope the whispers are coming across in the podcast. And Stephen whispers, "James." And he says James is the only person who's got major suspicion on him right now. It's got to be, surely. And Rachel tells us that she's hoping Stephen is sticking to the promise. She knows that he's going to question at the round table. She's just hoping he's not planning anything more than that. I wondered here, are they just, you've kind of said this, MaJiKer, are they just psyching us out a bit? Like, is there actually no chance that Stephen is turning on Rachel? But they want that jeopardy. They want us to think that's what might be happening, and actually, it's not really Stephen's plan at all. Maybe I'm being conned by the edit. I mean, I
Yeah,
guess the way it turns out, maybe.
I think they had to. I mean, it did work. It did work right up until the point that Stephen flipped over his slate. I didn't know. So, I just applaud the editors because they're doing a good job. They can also only work with what they've got, and I don't think either of these are kind of, they're not saying things that the producers are telling them to say. So they're only, as a producer. I do a lot with vocals where I get the vocalist to just improvise or do layers, send me stuff, and then I kind of paint with it. And that's what the editors are doing. They're
Yeah,
painting with the footage they've got, and they're doing a
yeah.
really good job of it.
It's a nice analogy. That's why I need you on the podcast. You're so articulate. Thank you.
Yeah, well, sometimes I use my skills for good, and sometimes my musical abilities have the power to change the world. And another little teaser: if you stay towards the end of the episode, you
Mm.
might have your life changed by a musical experience that once you have witnessed it, you may never be the same. Am
I
I overselling this a little bit?
no, I don't know what you mean, but it makes me want to listen to the very end of the podcast today
Yeah,
to find out. I'm not going to
yeah,
skip
me
the bit
too.
where they just talk about social media and where you can find us. Like, I need to hear the last moments of this episode podcast.
Yeah.
So, Stephen and Jack have a chat in the billiards room. They're talking about James and they wonder if Roxy was onto something. Stephen says, "Yeah, I'm deciding between James and Rachel." And Jack says, "I'm edging towards Rachel." Uh-oh. Stephen is telling us that if Rachel is banished tonight, he needs to have made himself look faithful by giving the impression he has genuinely been suspicious of her today too. And I think that is absolutely fair enough. Like, I can't be mad at him for that. You do have to think about yourself. He does have to think, even if I don't vote for her and she gets banished, I need to look like, I can't look like I was blind to her and I was defending her. I have to look like it wasn't a surprise to me, at least. So I understand that. James then tells Stephen that Stephen, is the person he least suspects. So, sorry, I think Jack, I said James, I meant Jack. Too many J's. James, Jack, Jade. So Jack tells Stephen, I suspect you the least. And I thought, please don't let Jack win. Again, very nice man, very handsome. I now know what PT means, but
Mm.
I don't want Jack to be the winner. That's not exciting for me. Come on. Jade and James have a chat in the kitchen, and James says he hopes that the traitors vote against one another tonight. And I didn't quite know what he meant there. I assume what he means is, well, we don't have a clue, but the faithful don't have a clue, so it'd be helpful if the traitors kind of did the hard part and just started on one another and that led us. I
Mm.
think maybe that's what you mean. And Rachel joins them at this point. They have a little laugh about James and his efforts today, while Jade suddenly has a revelation in her miv and says, maybe Rachel gave James the dagger to get rid of Matthew, and that framed James. She's piecing it all together. She is a gamer. Rachel, Jade, Jack, and Faraz then have a brief chat in the billiards room about dreading the round table tonight, worrying it's the last time the banished player will reveal their identity and so on, because Claudia told us 10 times. And, well, she's only told us like maybe once at this point. She's still got a few
Mhm.
times to go. And the women leave, and Faraz reiterates to Jack he suspects Rachel, probably going to go for it tonight. Jack also reckons, yeah, Rachel's acting differently, seems more nervous today. I don't know if that is accurate or if it's, sort of
Mm.
confirmation bias. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know. We don't see enough to,
I,
to,
I,
to figure out if that's true.
I'd I wondered if actually we can't really know what the atmosphere is in that castle, but I wondered if that actually might have been the case because the fact that the momentum built so quickly, there must have been something. And I think that maybe her facade just slipped a little bit. And I even wonder if she was a little bit too cool, calm and collected, and people
Yeah,
were like,
yeah,
why are you just not properly getting stuck in? And there must have been something that slipped because you just don't vote. At this stage, we say in the early stages, you're not that bothered about getting out a traitor necessarily. This stage, if you are faithful, you really, really, really need to get a traitor out.
yeah,
So there must have been something that meant that people were going for her. And I wonder if, yeah, just her composure, something was a bit off.
yeah. You've also reminded me of something. I know this seems a bit on a tangent, but I don't want to forget it. We often say on the podcast what you've just said, that actually, what's the even though Claudia urges them to find a traitor at all costs,
Mm.
actually there's not great reason to do that early in the game. Yeah, maybe you just figure out who the traitors are and keep it to yourself until later on. That actually it's quite good to just get rid of faithful. However, I watched my friend Matt. I've mentioned Max on the pod before. Max has shitloads of TikTok followers and is really funny. Knows a lot about TV, watches The Traitors, does lots of comedy sketches. I shared Max's video on Instagram recently where he was doing the funny skit about the secret traitor, like being really excited to meet the traitors and thinking they're going to be besties. And then the traitor's like, I hate that goddamn secret traitor. Max posted a little video, I think last night, talking about this issue, saying, and he just pointed out something I thought, oh yeah, that makes sense. He says we always say there's no point, there's a flaw in the game. What's the point in getting out traitors? They're just going to be replaced. But Max pointed out, well, the thing is though, yes, they're going to recruit a new traitor, but you might be that person. So that's an
Mm.
incentive to get them out. If you realize you're more likely to win as a traitor, it's a great position to be in. You're never going to be
Mm.
murdered. Maybe that is why you want to get traitors out, because you want to be the next recruit. So that I thought, yeah, okay, that maybe there is a reason to try and get them out because you want them to have to recruit someone, even blackmail eventually. So maybe that's your incentive as a faithful. And
Yeah.
I thought, yeah, I guess I've never thought of it that way. Thanks, Max. Anyway, Jade tells Stephen in the corridor that she's looking at James and Rachel, thinks they're both pushing for one another too obviously. And Stephen then says, yeah, he thinks the majority are going for Rachel tonight. Tells us and Miv he hoped that he and Rachel would make it to the end game, but now that's dwindling, and mentions again he's worried Rachel will turn on him. I I know again we are at the mercy of the edit. I've seen no evidence of that today. I've not seen Rachel mention Stephen. Maybe she has and we didn't see it. But I just get the sense that yeah, Stephen's paranoia is getting the better of him. Like, oh, she might turn on me. But she's never voted for you, Stephen. She's never brought you up at the round table before now, as far as I can see.
Mhm.
Just calm down a bit. She has not given you any real reason to suggest she's going to turn on you. And
Yeah.
I'm going to cue the new imaginary in my mind, Stephen klaxon, which is Stephen saying, I'm shaky tonight. This round table is going to be a lot. Like every other day in this castle, and every night Stephen's been here. He's shaky and he thinks it's going to be a lot.
I
Time
mean,
for
it's
round
just
table.
it's like a bit on Drag Race. It's like you could just use AI to generate it at this point. I'm not ready to go home yet. I'm gonna fight for my place. I will lip sync like I've never lip synced before. It's just
Yeah,
like you go, I have so much more to give. I'm not done. It's like, okay, yeah, all right. All right.
yeah.
And
That's
Stephen just saying, I am nervous. This is not gonna go well.
yeah. That's the classic. The I've got more to give. It's also very X Factor. I had so much more to give. You haven't seen the last of me yet. Like,
Yeah.
and yeah, absolutely. One of those moments. So it's
Justice
right.
for Rachel Adedeji. That's all I'm saying. Although to be fair, that wasn't the last we saw of Rachel Adedeji
Adedeji.
because wasn't she in Hollyoaks after that?
Oh, she may well have been.
I
Yeah.
think she
Well,
became an actress, ladies and gentlemen. I do
there you
believe
go.
so. Yeah.
Justice for Gamu. And so at the round table, Claudia says, yes, it's the last. Well, she says this funny thing. And I think this is, you maybe referred to this earlier. She says, this is the last round table before the final. And I thought, does that just mean the last round table before the final round table, like before the final
Hmm.
episode? Or does that
Yeah.
mean there's no round table next episode? We just go straight to the fire pit? It was just a funny
I
way of
think
phrasing it.
no, I think she means like the final. I think the final is the final day.
Yeah, yeah. For a moment, I thought, what? What do you mean? The Mivs coming in are Jack and Rachel and James. So Jack is saying, this is our last chance, Fightful. We have to get a Traitor. And Traitor, sorry, he uses his T's. And Rachel's saying James has played a brilliant game. And I thought, really? But a very confusing game. I'm feeling confident. And I thought, uh-oh, they're showing Rachel saying she feels confident. No, no, this isn't good. I don't like this foreshadowing. And James is just like, oh, I've got goosebumps. Oh, yeah, I've got a positive mental attitude and I'm gonna get a traitor tonight. So I don't know if that's James's accent. I may have been way off there. Claudia comes in. The prize fund is £76,750. Woo! And they stopped tonight's murder. Yay! A victory for the faithful. And asks if they can be victorious again in here tonight.
I would
Discussion.
just say a victory for the format of this television program that there was no more murder tonight. Congratulations to the producer, I mean, to the players.
Yes. And actually, a real congratulations to the producers because apparently the episode last night had 8.4 million viewers
Wow.
overnight, which is the highest of this, the highest of any civilian series. I
Mm,
think apparently it's only the Celebrity Traitors final had more viewers than that overnight at
mm.
11 million. So I mean, again, I predict the finale is gonna reach like 10 million or something like huge, huge
Yeah.
success, unbelievable. So the discussion starts. Jack begins. Hey, Jack's talking. Jack, whoa, well done, Jack. Comes to Rachel. He brings up Harriet's mad exit. But it's funny what he mentions. He said, yeah, when Harriet left, he doesn't say Harriet was gunning for you and you alone. He says, when Harriet left, she named Matt and Roxy and you, like all three of them, as if she wasn't mainly focused on Rachel. And he says that Harriet, caught Hugo so well before that. Shouldn't we have been listening to Harriet? And James sort of does what you said. He kind of interrupts. He's like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I was going to say that. I was going to say that. You stole my thunder." And he says Harriet and Rachel have been the best two faithful, and brings up Fiona and her banishment and everything surrounding that too. Rachel's defenses, I thought very smart actually. She said, "Well, if Harriet named three of us, me, Matt, and Roxy. If I'm a traitor, why would I have gotten rid of Matthew and Roxy and left myself as the one person that Harriet had named?" And but I also did think, yes, Rachel, why did you get rid of Roxy? Maybe this is another moment to reflect. Jack then asks, well, why did you vote for Matthew? Because yesterday during the day, they were in the kitchen. You said he was the player you really trusted. You thought you'd get to the end with him as a faithful. How come you then voted for him? And Rachel just says, "Well, I got worried that he was keeping me in the game, and that's why we were close. And the dagger made me think he'd given it to James, and it was a really clever play." And she's just saying, "Oh, I was wrong. I got it wrong that time." Faraz then asks, "So if Matt was still here, would you still trust him?" And Rachel says, "No, no offense, I don't trust any of you," and, which I thought was very funny. Um, but maybe you want to keep them on side a bit more than that, Rachel. Maybe you shouldn't push them away. Jade then comes in to say that this seems like the perfect situation for Rachel to hide behind, and suggests actually what she told us earlier. Perhaps Rachel was the one that gave the dagger to James, and talks through why that might have been a smart move. And Rachel just says, "Well, if I was the traitor, I'd have kept the knife for myself." Stephen then speaks up. I was worried he was going to come straight for Rachel. He doesn't. He focuses on James for now and says, "I haven't had any suspicion on you. You're also a great, you're a great light in the castle. You're so much fun. We love having you around. But last night's behaviour, I haven't been able to look past." Talks about James being chaotic, too insistent on banishing Matthew, etc. James says, "Well, if I was a traitor, why would I have gotten it so obviously wrong? I wouldn't have gone that hard only for the person I'm gunning for to then say they're faithful." And Jade's is just saying, like, you're so confusing. You keep talking about your list of suspects to everyone all the time, and James is like, I'm just an honest faithful. I'm just not very good at the game.
Are you trying to say that what he was really trying to say is, I'm just me, I'm just James?
He
Because
was,
that on Uncloaked, they have acknowledged that that's become Judy's character. I'm just Jude, I'm just
I'm just
me.
Jude. I'm just me. I'm not going to change. Yeah, James is unwittingly quoting the icon that is Judy. And Jack then sort of even questions James. And Jack and James are really good pals. It seems like they always vote the same way. And he says, "Why do you always ask me before the round table who I'm voting for?" And I think James is just like, "Well, I want to know what you're going to do. I'm fate, blah, blah, blah." Rachel jumps in on it and says, yeah, I actually hadn't noticed that until Matthew brought it up. And Jade is agreeing, yes, it is odd that you always vote identically. And I think James is sort of like, do we? Have we? What? Oh, I didn't know that. And Rachel also brings up how James was voted the most underestimated in one of the missions, and pretends she's wondering again, are you actually a secret mastermind? James just laughs it off. Like, as if I wish I was, but I'm not. I'm just bad. I'm just James. And Rachel then asks him about the dagger again. She's trying to bamboozle him a little. Then Stephen comes towards Jade and asks her about the way her vote shifted last night from Matthew to James. And she says it's just something Matthew said when he suggested, look, maybe we're just too faithful going at one another and the traitors are sitting back and watching, and that just made her reframe things. It shifted her mindset, especially because, like you said, MaJiKer, James just kept interrupting all the time, and it really threw her. And James is like, I was just backing you up. And Jade says, yeah, but I don't need you to defend me. Go feminism. Yes, Jade, you don't need that James. Yeah, I thought, well done, Jade. Like, you don't need James jumping in. You're speaking for yourself. You really don't need him.
Mm. Yeah, and there's an element here of like I think where James was attracting suspicion was by, ironically, because we know that's he's not a traitor, but trying to control the game. And I think actually him kind of chipping in and then saying, "Oh no, this one is, this one isn't. You're on my list, you're not." There's this element of trying to control the game, and I think that's what kind of increased his suspicion.
Yeah, yes. Faraz then comes back round to Rachel, and he goes back to the way she was really insistent about Ross earlier on in the game, even though he ended up being a faithful, talks about the Fiona conflict. And Rachel says, I didn't cause anything with Fiona, I caught her in a lie. I'm not sure what Rachel meant here. She says it a couple of times, and actually, somebody, I haven't written it down, somebody on Instagram, I think it was this morning, so I was very sleepy, sent me a message asking the very same thing. I'm going to check Instagram right now. It may have been Tommy, Tommy C. Apologies to whoever this was. Someone sent me a message saying, "What did Rachel mean? Caught Fiona in a lie?" So I was confused by this. And Rachel says she knew I was going to come for her, and her number was up, so she just attacked me. I I don't know if you noticed that Rachel saying I caught Fiona in a lie. I think she
Mm,
just means I caught her pretending she was suspicious of me and called it or something like that. I just think she's phrasing it in an odd way. Um,
yeah, no, I didn't get that either because she didn't say in what lie, but maybe we missed the context to it.
yeah, yeah. She then says, "Can I just ask something? We all know that 9 people got put in cages. Who here was in a cage?" And it's actually, I think, everybody but her. And I thought that was the end of the point. I thought she was just going to go, well, was it not a bit weird? You're all questioning, you were all convinced there was a traitor in the cages. I wasn't even in the cage. But she
Mm,
keeps going and says, well, out of you, who came back by chance? Again, she worded that a bit strangely. I think she
mm,
means who wasn't rescued through the efforts of another
yeah,
player in the mission, like who just
yeah,
ended up at the hands of the traitors at the end of the night.
yeah.
And it's Stephen. So she's kind of, maneuvering things towards Stephen a little and asks, well,
Mm,
how do you explain this? What's your interpretation of this? Stephen just says, well, I thought I was going to be murdered. I thought I wasn't coming back, but then I did. I reckoned I did have some heat on me at the round table. That's why I was being kept in. And I agree, he did have a little bit of heat on him. And he says, then I realised that one of the traitors we banished, meaning Fiona, was close to me. She'd been keeping me here. That's the explanation. And Rachel seems to sort of accept that. But then Stephen comes back at her and says, the one thing that was on my mind was about the Fiona situation. And he basically paraphrases what Jack and James suggested, what he himself had said earlier in the day, that maybe she copied Harriet's taking down of Hugo to make herself look as faithful as Harriet. And
mhm.
Rachel again says, I caught her in that lie. You could tell by my reaction. And I don't know what she means by caught her in that lie. I think she just means
Mm,
I caught her lying she was a faithful who suspected
yeah.
me. I think that's it. Uh, James then actually hits the nail on the head and suggests maybe you're a traitor and you didn't like what Fiona was doing and you took your chance to get her out, which is pretty much true. And Rachel just her next play is to feign irritation, and she just sort
Mm,
of doubles down on being like an absolute faithful. And she says, you can't take that away from me. I got out a traitor. That's something that I'm the most proud of in this game. Stop trying to turn it on me. Like you can't take it away, etc." And James is like, no, no, oh no, that's not what I'm doing. And she's almost getting emotional and says, don't dilute that by saying it was traitor on traitor. So I thought she was doing well at acting faithful. Until
mm,
James then just goes, well, I'm going to vote for you tonight. So I thought, "Oh, okay."
mm,
And she manages one last jab by asking if it'll be the first time he's voting differently from Jack. Whoa. And she says that's
mm.
very, very appropriate. And James is just like, that's all I got.
Well,
So,
there's something here about like, announcing who you're going to vote for. And I thought that is something that we've seen more recently in a couple of versions when they say your name will be on my slate tonight. And it particularly at this stage of the game, that's very interesting to say that. It's risky because it implies that you're just set on something and you're not going to be swayed from it, but it gives a very clear indication if anyone else is like havering, is that the word? Wavering, not knowing exactly what they're gonna do, then you say, oh well, she's already got a vote, so maybe I'll just go with that, giving a
yeah.
signal to others, Interesting.
Yeah, a bit of a yeah, it's a sort of it is a persuasive technique, I suppose. It's a way of swaying them, like, well, I'm telling you right now what I'm going to do, so
Yeah.
maybe you want to do the same. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Uh, and I think connected to that, there is, I think maybe you spoke about this on the podcast with David. Maybe I'm misremembering that. I think there is a rule. I think you talked about this in the US that there is a rule
Mm.
that you can't literally write on your slate until the host tells you it's time
Yeah.
because
Well,
there was a sort
I
of
presume that because otherwise the kind of mechanics doesn't work. It's discussion then vote.
yeah,
Um, I'm sure producers would step in and say because it does. I mean, it's a very interesting idea, but it's it totally upsets the thing. The whole idea. If
Yeah.
everyone just comes in and says, right, I'm done, I'm not discussing because I've done my vote, then it unbalances it. However, I am always thinking of like interesting twists that the players could introduce rather than the producers. And I would love one time for them to say, I have a suggestion that would only be a problem for the traitors. Everyone at this table goes round and says one name, no reason, right now. And everyone says one name, and we're going to be able to see from that the traitors panicking because they don't know where it's going to go. Or we all say the name at the same time, we all hear what our neighbour says. You know, could be
Uh,
interesting.
yeah. And I think that's and the celebrity traitors kind of what Stephen Fry
Mm,
suggested one day. He said, "Why don't we just not have a discussion? Let's just go around and say who we." And
yeah,
they didn't do it, and I wondered if it's because producers sort of went, "Cut, Stephen,
yeah,
don't do that. That's ruining the game." Like everyone, don't do that.
yeah.
And this is not a spoiler, but in the US season that's on right now, there was a moment where a player at the round table was sort of like, "Well, I'm going to write my name down now," and I think the others were like, You can't do that." And
Mm,
I think maybe you and David spoke about it
yeah.
briefly, but anyway, just came to mind there. So the votes, here we go. James begins. He's voting for Rachel. He told us he was going to vote for Rachel. Rachel, in return, votes for him. Not a surprise. It's Jade's turn. She votes for James, which she did last time as well, so she's sticking with it for now. Then it's Faraz. He votes for Rachel. Not a surprise. He's been coming for Rachel. He's been saying it all day. She's his number one suspect. And then Stephen, looking like he is about to melt like a snowman. And I thought, Stephen, don't you dare. Don't you do this. He says, this is incredibly difficult. James, I've written your name down. Sorry, pal. Oh, yes, Stephen, thank God. He says he felt Rachel did a better job of giving him clarity. Thank you, Stephen. And I agree, even though I know she's a traitor. And Jack is next. So he has the deciding vote. And he says it was between yourself, Rachel, and yourself, James. And he votes Rachel, which I didn't think he was going to do. It's a draw. Oh my goodness. I thought, no, now Stephen's going to switch. He's going to switch. Rachel's going, oh God, I can't handle this. Yes, despite how removed sometimes I feel because I'm sort of analysing and taking notes and pausing and typing, I cannot help in these moments of just like heart racing, being completely captivated by it, which is just why I love it so much. And Claudia, of course, tells them, well, it's a draw. We can't leave the round table until someone is banished. And blah, blah, blah. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. Time for your final, please. James sort of bumbles a bit as he does in James fashion. He's just James and says he's got no defence because he's got nothing to hide. Instead, he uses the chance to go on the offense, which I think is fine, and he just uses the time to explain further why it must be Rachel. And he says something that I don't think he had said earlier, or if he did, it was cut out. He says he doesn't understand why Rachel hasn't been murdered when she's not really had any heat on her at the round table.
Mm,
And I thought, yes, that actually is a good point to raise. Well done.
mm,
And out of everyone, she's the one that he's least sure of. For Rachel's turn, she says she disagrees that Harriet was the best faithful in the game, which James had mentioned in his little plea, because she's trying to be the best faithful in the game. She reiterates she got a traitor out, and she's tried as much as possible to encourage people not to be swayed. She's not tried to push people. She's always wanted people to think for themselves and has tried to throw questions at the traitors at Round Table. She says she's done nothing but tried to be the best faithful she can be. No more discussions allowed. They just go straight to votes. I'm struggling to handle the tension. More shots of Stephen looking like he is going into cardiac arrest. I know we've talked about this a lot and joked, but I mean, he really is like, looks so physically uncomfortable. And I wonder, what do the others, just think he's always like that? Like, do they
mm.
ever go, he is unnaturally physically uncomfortable? I mean, I know a listener mentioned it in the pod last time. They saw him at the cabin mission and how easily
Mm.
frightened he. Maybe yeah, maybe it's just that's just what Steven's like, and it's the Alan Carr sort of like
Yeah.
he's just a panicky guy. So I don't know.
Well, yeah, they said on Uncloaked, which actually I think is quite a good call, that this game is about consistency. So long as you're
Hmm.
consistent, you don't draw too much suspicion. And Stephen has been many things, but he's definitely been consistent in his reactions to everything.
Yeah, true. So they're writing their names down for the revote. Very clearly you can see Stephen like darting looks towards the side of the table that's Jade and Faraz, unless they've flipped the image. As we know, sometimes they do. So yeah, he seems to be like trying to glean some sense of who they're going for. I don't know if they're looking back at him in return or not. I mean, it's probably pretty obvious what Faraz is going to do, but I wondered if he was looking at Jade. So here's the revote. Faraz begins and is voting for Rachel again, of course. And Stephen, after what feels like the longest pause ever, still votes for James. Jack then says, I said in my last vote I was 50-50 between you. I've listened to your pleas. I'm sorry, James. I was more convinced by what Rachel said. And votes for James this time. He's flipped. The gasp. I gasped. MaJiKer. I couldn't believe it. But now it all comes down to Jade, who also looks sick. Of course, James and Rachel don't vote in the revote. She just looks like she's having a meltdown too, and says, I really struggled with my confidence throughout this game, but while I was really 50-50 between both of you, I feel Rachel would have made the best traitor. Oh my god, I can't believe it. She's flipped and voted for Rachel. It's another draw. So Claudia has to leave to collect the chests of chance. So this is unbearable. At least Rachel and James have a little handhold, which I appreciate in these moments. And I mean, I just know here, okay, we are going to end on a cliffhanger. That's absolutely what's about to happen. Claudia returns, explains the rules. If you find the shield in the chest, you're saved. James offers the choice to Rachel first. They take the boxes, they have them in front of them. Claudia wishes them enormous luck. For a place in the final, please open the chest. In three, two, one. No!
Hmm.
My heart can't take this, MaJiKer. I'm not built for this, right? I'm too anxious a person. I'll say here before we give our predictions. I mean, it's hard to predict because it's up to chance. To an extent, I do have something to say about that. Um, I'm not, if I don't want Rachel to go, but at least if she leaves now at the hand of Chance and Jade, I'm not mad that I think at least Stephen didn't turn on her. I'm sort of quite happy that he did stick to his word. Maybe helped push the others towards voting for her, but I'm less mad at him at the end than I was halfway through the episode. Um, I have an email from Vinny that I'm going to read here rather than save it for the bonus ep because it's so relevant to this. Vinny has pointed out, I think production left the episode on a cliffhanger because James will be banished. Rachel being banished would have been electric and they would have shown that before the finale. The finale is already exciting on its own without extra help. Uh, could that be the case? If would they
Hmm.
just is it James going and so they want to keep that as the cliffhanger?
Oh no, I don't think so. No, I mean, let's see. It's 50-50, and I refuse to make a prediction on a 50-50 random chance bet. That's the mathematician in me. My brother is a mathematician, so I will not be making a prediction on the 50-50 bet. However, um, no, because it just made incredible TV, and I don't think it would have made anywhere near as good TV if it's like, oh, Rachel goes, oh, Rachel, bye then. Okay, cool. Now we've got to get ready for the final episode. No, well, maybe let's see, but no, I think this was such a brilliant cliffhanger. I think they did it perfectly, which whatever the outcome is.
Yeah, I I'm not sure what to think. I reckon they if they can end on a cliffhanger, they will. It worked out perfectly. They're already going to have millions of viewers for the finale, but why not
Mhm.
give people that extra reason to have to watch it live for those
Yeah,
first 2 minutes to see the outcome of the
yeah.
Chest of Chance? So, prediction, I don't know. What we maybe could predict though is the win. MaJiKer, it's the penultimate episode.
Yeah.
Who do you call winning the show?
Well, at this stage, it looks like Stephen, doesn't it? Because at least in this episode, he doesn't seem to have had much sus, whereas in the past, I feel like he's had quite a bit.
Yeah,
Uh, I think we're looking at a kind of Alan Carr type situation where someone comes across as very nervous, very kind of sweaty, and actually that hides a lot of what's going on behind. And I think we maybe haven't quite been given him the credit that he deserves because being a traitor is all about those micro reactions to everything: breakfast, missions, roundtables, after the roundtables, like all of it. You're constantly just trying to convince people, obviously, that you're faithful. And I think Stephen's probably doing a much better job than anyone is giving him credit for.
yeah, yeah. I agree with everything. I think that makes sense. I was watching him at the breakfast today when Faraz came back and Roxy was gone, and you
Mm,
could see Stephen. Maybe you could say he was overdoing it a bit, but he was doing his best to look totally, jaw
mm,
on the table. And I guess it works. He seems, believe it, he seems like a shocked, nervous, anxious player.
mm.
And a couple of the players did say, yeah, Rachel, you just look a bit too relaxed sometimes at the round table, and or inconsistent. Like you're more nervous today than you have been before. Whereas Stephen is just always a bit nervous and anxious. I, if I was gonna, well, I am gonna make my prediction. That's why I asked you. I also think we are looking at a Stephen solo win. I think even if Rachel survives the Chester chance,
Mm.
there, she, I think now she can't. They're not going to keep her
No.
until the end. Like they're just gonna banish her. They can't take the chance. So
Yeah.
sadly, I don't think Rachel's won it. It's really just a case of the remaining faithful, whether or not they put their trust in Stephen, whether Jack
Mm.
and for. I mean, I think I can see them also banishing Jade just out of that last bit of worry. Her name has always come up from probably
Yeah.
the very first round table. It would be weird not to suspect her and just not take a chance. So
Yeah.
I think it comes down to probably Faraz and Jack deciding
Yeah.
whether or not they can trust Stephen.
Yes, because Faraz
Uh,
and Jack are seeming like uber faithful, and they have done for quite a while. And even coming into this final episode, they still seem to me, at least according to what we're seeing in the edit, they seem like uber faithful, which is very
yeah.
dangerous. But Steven seems, at least from what we've seen, to be up there as also coming across as very faithful. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And as I say, I'm glad that in these final episodes, it's just been pure gameplay. Like we're fascinated by the way these particular humans are playing this game. I did just want to say before I forgot to mention in the mission, we've mentioned before that we've ended up with mainly young players. How on earth would Ben, Fiona, Judy, etc. have done that mission? It
Yeah,
makes me a little
that's
bit like it makes me a little, yeah, I just think, oh, so are no older players or people with physical disabilities who wouldn't be able to
yeah.
get up? That makes it worries me, I must say.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they change the time limit and they say you've got an hour and a half, or you've got 24
Couple of
hours.
couple of days.
Yeah,
Couple of days to do it. I suppose actually what if they did have an older player there, then they could say, right, we're gonna be sensible about this. Fiona, whoever it is, work your way up the hill. You've got 45 minutes. We'll take care of the missions and then we'll see. And then that could be an interesting narrative. Like, oh, we really want to make sure she makes it up and she doesn't have anything to carry.
yeah,
Because I don't think that hill in particular, I think you could have walked up that hill in 45 minutes with none of the faffing around. I
yeah.
think that would have been even if you don't have a level of fitness. But I don't know, that just played on my mind a little bit.
Or they could just simply change the conditions to win and say
Yeah.
you don't all have to be here. We just
Yeah.
need the shield covered. It's up to you
Yes.
how you do that. So maybe
Yeah.
two of the younger ones take the
Hmm.
backpacks and they run up and they do it.
Yeah.
Yay! And then when everyone else arrives, they go, "We did it!" Something like that.
Yes. I sometimes also think this is a total sidebar, but I do sometimes think about people we haven't had a player in a wheelchair.
Yeah,
Could
yeah, I was thinking of that.
I know I'm sure that what they do, like so for example, in other shows when they have people that have, there's a quiz show that I like, and they had a blind contestant, and they just swapped some of the picture rounds for song music
Yeah.
rounds instead.
Yeah.
Accommodations, accommodations are possible. I would love them to bear that in mind in the future. I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the castle is not particularly
Mm,
like wheelchair accessible. I'm not
yeah,
sure. Maybe that causes
yeah,
a problem. But yeah, it would be nice to know that they're thinking about how they tackle that.
yeah.
Okay, we've got our predictions, and just I'm going to mention now in case I forget. I put in here BBC Sounds and the Traitors official Instagram page have released the clips now of all of the eliminated players opening the infamous second scroll, which is just about the Ellie and Ross, Judy and Roxy. It's just a compilation of them all going, oh, they're a couple. Oh, Judy and Roxy are mother and daughter. Like, thank God that's over. I can't take any
Yeah.
more conspiracy theories or secret. There is no Jesse and James are not siblings. Harriet and Amanda are not a couple. Fiona is not Stephen's auntie. Let it stop now. So that's what the second scroll is, just what we thought it was. So you can see it on social media now, the everybody finding out what the second thing was. That's it. It's done. We of course have our special surprise coming,
Yeah.
MaJiKer, at the
Hmm.
end of the episode in like maybe 3 or 4 minutes. We're
Yeah.
not quite finished with episode 11 of the show because we have all of our listener thoughts and questions and observations and hot takes in the bonus Q&A episode right after this. And of course, MaJiKer and I will be concluding the Traitor to uncover what we both lied about in this episode. Right
Hmm.
now, MaJiKer, you mentioned a couple of things at the beginning of the episode, but maybe you could tell us more. Where can we find you? What projects are you working on? Why might
Hmm.
people want to contact you if it's not about the traitors?
Well, the main place you can find me is in charity shops where I spend most of my life. Thrift stores for our American listeners. Um, and let me tell you, when I decided I wanted to find a metal goblet so that I could suck my water from it on these podcasts, I've been trawling charity shops for literally more than a year. I would say I've probably been, I mean, I go anyway because it's just a habit of mine, but I say I've probably been to more than 150 of them, trying to find a cheap metal goblet in the Traitors style. If you're watching on YouTube, then enjoy. And I was so thrilled that when they had their dinner, they were all supping from very similar metal goblets. I was like, yay, I feel vindicated. But thank you, shout out to the PDSA, the People's Dispensary for Sick Animals on Kingsheath High Street in Birmingham, that finally sold me a metal goblet for £2, because you can get them from antique shops for 20. It's like, I'm not paying £20 for a metal goblet. £2 for my lovely metal goblet. When I'm not in charity shops, well, I'm mainly in charity shops, to be honest. So, but when I'm not, come follow me on Substack. I will be posting, as previously mentioned, stuff about music. I'll be sharing my music, also celebrating playlists of other people's music, and talking about listening and coaching and all the good stuff. So that's simply magiker.substack.com. It's totally free. Come and follow me. There will be a mailing list. I won't spam your inbox. Won't be more than once a month. Yeah, that's probably the best way to connect. Otherwise, Instagram, MaJiKer_.
Yes, and just scour the charity shops of South London. You'll spot MaJiKer there.
Yeah, I'll be there.
I have a few things, like 4 or 5 things to mention here, actually, just before I remind you of where you can follow the podcast and all that stuff, and our special magical surprise at the end. I mentioned this last time, I'm going to say it again. I will be on BBC Radio Manchester at 10 a.m. on Saturday, the 24th, so the morning after the finale has aired, with you, MaJiKer. You're going to be joining me. We'll be on the radio
Yay!
together,
All
and we'll be.
right then, all right, me lad. And then Manchester, mad for it.
Please don't do that on the radio.
I won't. Hate crime.
Or do it if you want. Maybe it'll create a viral moment. Well, who knows? We'll also be joined by Sanjay, regular podcast co-host. So all three of us will be there talking about the finale, and I believe taking part in a little quiz. Oh, very excited. So 10 a.m. Saturday morning, right after the finale. That's the 24th of January. If you're listening to this podcast after that, you actually can go back and listen to BBC Radio Manchester online, BBC Sounds. You can listen to all the previous programs, so you could catch up on us there. I will be doing another Instagram live at a slightly different time. I'm going to go live at noon that Saturday. So, again, day after the finale of Traitors UK, Saturday 24th, maybe for like 25 minutes, half an hour, do a little live, and we can have a chat about our reactions to the final. And hopefully, no one accidentally joins the live who hasn't watched the final. Every 10 seconds, I'll just say spoiler, spoiler, and try and put people off. But that might be fun to just have a wee chat. And I'm doing that because the final episode of the podcast will be delayed just a wee bit. That will come out on Sunday, the 25th. So, because there's a day in between, I thought, hey, I'll go on Instagram Live and we can have a chat about it. If you're in the States, I'm sorry, that might be very early for you, but I will be kind of away for the weekend, so I'm juggling the Traitors finale with various other activities, including the Venga Boys. I'll say no more. We'll do the final Q&A episode a few days after that to give everybody time to watch the episode, listen to the pod, get all your final thoughts about Series 4 into us. Beyond that, I am going to host an online game of the Traitors. Details to come. I'm in the planning stages, but I'm really looking forward to it. So once it is set up and I have a date and details, I'll tell you all on the podcast. I'll put it on social media. But something to keep in mind. Let me know if you're interested. And besides the Traitors, something else I'll be doing IRL is I'll be performing at Riverside Studios in London on Tuesday, the 27th of January at 7 p.m., where I'll be reading some poetry because that's one of the things I do outside of podcasting. They have a queer open mic poetry night. I've been to one of the nights organised by the organiser of this, and it's a really well put together evening. Great people, great poetry. Very exciting. It's a great venue, Riverside Studios. They have a TV studio in there. They film Have I Got News for You in that building. I've been in the audience. I think they film a couple of other things. It's right behind the Apollo, the Aventum Apollo, formerly known as the Hammersmith Apollo. You can buy tickets online. I will try and put a link to that in the episode description. But yeah, Tuesday 27th, 7 p.m. I'll be at Riverside Studios if you happen to be in the area and you want to come and hear some cool poetry. And to make sure you're up to date with the podcast and Traitors news and all of these things I've just mentioned, sometimes a little video from me or my Instagram Live. You can join on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. It's all the same. It's at the Traidar Podcast. Really straightforward. You can send me your comments and DMs there. You can email me at thetradar.podcast@gmail.com. Or you could leave a voice note at memo.fm/thetradar podcast like we had from Emily in this episode. We've got one or two in our bonus Q&A coming up. Wherever you're listening, as always, great to follow, subscribe, review, all that stuff. And finally, a couple of ways you can support the pod. I showed off my Traidar notepad earlier. There are different colours of this available, I think, on thetradar.redbubble.com and MaJiKer's mug that he's holding up right now. So you could visit that, have a look at some of the cool stuff. You can show off to people how much you love the Traitors. Or you could visit the coffee.com page. You can chip in a donation of any amount you choose, and you don't have to subscribe to anything. It's ko-fi.com/Matthew Keeley. And I have to say thank you to Jade. Is it Jade from the show? Who knows? I'm not sure. Is it Jade the pop star? Could be. Jade has donated, I think maybe just yesterday, and said, "Hi Matthew, I've watched all UK Traitors and found your podcast on the celebrity version. You put so much content in this series, and I was struggling to keep up. I'm debating watching other versions just so I can follow along with your other podcasts." So thank you so much for that, Jade. That was really kind of you. And you absolutely should. I gave Jade some recommendations for other seasons that I think are worth watching. MaJiKer will be back in our follow-up episode. We're going to get to the listener questions. We're going to conclude the Traitor reveal. Traidar Traitor reveal. I think I said that wrong. For now, the moment of wonder is almost upon us. Until the next ep, laters Traitors.
Dig them potatoes, and above all, dig what you're about to listen to.
Maybe someone's been recruited. Maybe someone's been recruited. Maybe some.